Brexit provides us with opportunities.
And we will seize all the opportunities that Brexit brings.
The European Union is not working. We're giving you the middle finger. We're out of here.
June 23rd, 2016. A referendum was held in the UK, and the British people were given a choice of whether to stay or to leave the European Union.
I voted to leave Europe.
I'm a business owner and I wanted to leave. I wanted to take back control of immigration.
The majority chose to leave, and not just the common people. Even Rishi Sunak, who served as Prime Minister from 2022 to 2024, says,
proud to back Brexit.
Fast forward 4 years, January 31st, 2020, and Brexit has actually become a reality. What was sold as a move towards sovereignty has instead triggered several crises: a breakdown in trade, economic upheaval, and, most ironically, an immigration emergency. The UK, once so determined to cut immigration that it left the EU, is now urgently seeking the very workers it tried to exclude. How so? And why does it need them? And will the new British Nationalists even allow it? This is the irony of Brexit. Why the UK needs immigrants now more than ever. Take back control. In the 2016 Brexit referendum, one topic dominated the debate: uncontrolled migration. For many Brits, the EU's open borders had become a symbol of lost control, especially after the 2004 EU expansion, which brought a wave of new arrivals from Eastern Europe. Suddenly, migrant workers were everywhere, in construction, agriculture, hospitality, and healthcare, filling gaps in essential sectors, but also creating new challenges. The influx put intense pressure on housing markets and public services, with local communities feeling the strain. And it wasn't just about the numbers. Migration from Eastern Europe was reshaping the labor market itself. In regions that saw the highest in-migration, wages for lower-income workers stagnated, leaving many British citizens frustrated and feeling overlooked. This tension continued to grow, and for many, Brexit was a vote to take back control. And then Prime Minister David Cameron, who campaigned to remain in the EU, acknowledged the need for stricter immigration policies to ease public concerns.
There will be tough new restrictions on access to our welfare system for EU migrants. No more something for nothing.
In addition to the wave of migrants from Eastern Europe, the world was rocked by a global refugee crisis around 2015, as refugees from Syria and North Africa arrived in large numbers, impacting EU countries like Italy and Greece the hardest. In response, the EU implemented a plan requiring each member state to share the responsibility of hosting refugees. For a UK already uneasy with the influx of Eastern European workers, this was a tipping point. Calls to take back control continued to grow louder.
We'll be taking back control. We have already taken back control.
Now that you're caught up, by January 31st, 2020, Brexit was official. Around 2.4 million EU migrants were living in the UK at the time, and with this change, the rug was pulled out from under them overnight. Brexit required them to hold visas, yet many didn't meet the stricter requirements imposed on non-EU citizens. With no clear policy, many were forced to leave, heading back home or relocating elsewhere in the EU. The impact was significant. By 2021, the number of Romanians in the UK dropped from 450,000 to 342,000. Similarly, there were once 900,000 Poles and 121,000 Bulgarians in the UK. 2 years later, these numbers had dropped to 696,000 and 79,000 respectively. So, great news, right? The UK had achieved its goal, or so it thought. Many experts had warned that Brexit might not yield the intended results, and soon enough, the UK felt the consequences of this exodus. Labour shortages became a growing issue, and government leaders were in a bit of a panic. Now, seemingly every political party in Britain, including the Conservative Party, had come around to admitting their importance.
No one believes more strongly than me in the benefits of migration to our country.
The government still had their opinions, and in an effort to continue to defend their post-Brexit agenda, they started to explain that they would actually prefer non-EU workers with visas over EU workers themselves.
With people coming from outside the EU, we have much more control over who comes. They come here for a limited period of time on a visa, and then usually after a certain period of time they go home.
Sorry, David, but you and the government were wrong. It took just 4 months for them to change their stance on the issue. But how did this backfire so spectacularly? And why does the UK, like so many other nations, even need this many migrants to keep its economy running in the first place? Sounds like a faulty system, doesn't it? The need for Eastern European migrants. It's no secret that the European Union has money. The wealth started in Western Europe and then slowly spread to the East, as today, many Eastern European countries such as Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, and Poland have joined the EU to share in these benefits. All the West asked for in return was their human capital. To put it bluntly, the UK is not giving birth to enough children, which means that their population will continue to decline generation by generation until a true state of emergency is declared. Birth rates are dropping everywhere, even at such an alarming rate that some countries, such as South Korea, have implemented government programs to pay couples in order to start a family. Today, a country needs to maintain a birth rate of 2.1 births per woman, and here's how birth rates currently sit across Europe. France's fertility rate stands at 1.9, the UK at 1.63, and Germany at 1.58. To fill the gap, the EU has always provided easy access to skilled labor, and in 2019, 2.38 million migrant workers supported the UK economy in various sectors. The EU had always made it very easy for them to attract migrants from Eastern Europe. There was a clear and legal path to enter the country, and these people would find low-paying jobs and work where most locals did not want to. Many were also well-educated and contributed to the UK via the entrepreneurship, IT, and healthcare sectors too. Nevertheless, some argued that these migrants took more than they gave. This sentiment helped fuel the Brexit vote, with a belief that cutting immigration would open more jobs for locals. So the damage was done, and hundreds of thousands left. The UK now has nowhere to turn but to its more complex and faulty immigration processes. Please come back. Immediately post-Brexit, the UK soon experienced the predicted labour shortages, particularly in the healthcare sector. It's not just Brexit forcing workers to leave the UK that fueled this increased demand, but also the global impact of COVID-19. To fulfill this demand, they focused on migration, not just from other parts of the world, but also from Eastern Europe. This article, published in April 2020, tells us how the UK had to bring in 150 Romanian workers on a special flight so they could work as fruit and vegetable pickers in the country. While it's true that the local volunteers filled some vacancies, they ultimately had to rely on overseas labor. According to the then president of the Country Land and Business Association, where it is possible and safe to do so in the current circumstances, bringing in workers from overseas to help meet the shortfall is the right thing to do if we want to keep the supermarkets stocked. To be honest, this solution to the problem sounds quite expensive. The Eastern Europeans still need jobs and will go to Western Europe because of better wages. However, they can find similar opportunities in other well-off Western European countries like Germany, France, and soon even Poland, which will offer better living standards than the UK by 2030. So now their leading choice won't be the UK because of all the paperwork and formalities, even if the UK has now realized how much they need them. So now they have to look at other parts of the world outside Europe. Thanks to Brexit, the UK has increased immigration from Asian and African countries. The only difference is that the Eastern European workers were often young and single. However, Asians and Africans tend to bring their families along.
Well, that's been the result. I mean, I understand it wasn't the intention, but the result is we have higher levels of immigration and higher levels of people bringing dependents into the country.
But it's still not a complete loss. After all, the overall number of immigrants has decreased and the number of migrant workers has been limited, bringing the jobs back to the locals, right? Actually, no. While it's true that the number of migrant workers has decreased, the total number of migrants has only increased. You see, even though there are fewer foreign workers, they more often come with their dependent families, eventually increasing the net migration into the UK. Statistically, net migration in the UK was 333,000 migrants in 2015. 7 years later, it increased to 764,000 in 2022, approximately 2.3 times higher. And if you think it still leaves more jobs for UK citizens, that's again no. Imagine there were 100 vacant jobs in a society and 100 unemployed people. Will everyone get a job and there won't be any vacant positions anymore? No. Only those who fulfill the job requirements will get the job. For example, if a hospital is looking for a doctor and they don't find one, they won't hire a lawyer in his place. This applies not only to jobs in skilled sectors, but also, to some extent, to jobs in non-skilled sectors. For example, to work as a construction worker, one needs to be physically strong. Thus, those Britishers who were unemployed earlier will likely remain so. In fact, more British citizens lost their jobs as many investors moved their businesses because of Brexit.
Jobs created in this country throughout the whole of the UK, not just in spite of Brexit, but because of Brexit.
Sorry to break it to you, Boris, but the opposite happened. Jobs weren't created, they were destroyed. Statistically, unemployment in the UK increased from 3.9% in December 2019 to 5.3% after an exact year. Global embarrassment. Because of this wild series of events, the UK-EU relationship has very much become a household discussion globally. While the UK was often thought to be a country with open arms, it now faces skepticism from investors and foreign talent alike. The constant flip-flopping on immigration policy has made the UK a less appealing destination for families and individuals, especially with competitors such as Germany, France, and the Netherlands offering an arguably better environment and quality of life overall. This ripple effect has extended far beyond labor. Not only are people opting to relocate to other foreign European countries, but so are companies. London, once the unquestioned leader in European finance, is seeing key sectors of its economy slowly dissipate, and the UK risks losing its status as Europe's financial and innovation powerhouse in the coming decade. Foreign investment is increasingly overlooking the UK in favor of more stable environments within the EU, Poland being one of the best examples. Brexit has failed completely in every aspect, including immigration. It's not just something we think. Even Nigel Farage, once one of the most notable proponents of Brexit, has admitted to this.
Brexit has failed.
However, you still have the right to disagree. And if you do, let us know. We would love to know what you think. If you remained with us until the end of the video, leave a worker emoji in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned. See you soon with the next video.